Hi everyone, and welcome to today's Red Hat webinar. Before we get started with today's presentation, there are a few items to quickly mention. First up, you should see a taskbar at the bottom of your screen. Each icon is assigned to a particular element of today's webinar. If you're not sure what an icon does, hover over the icon with your mouse and a box will appear to tell you the function. Also, below the slides window, you should see a blank Ask a Question box that allows you to type a question. After you type the question, click Submit to send it to the presenter. Feel free to submit your questions throughout the webinar, and our presenter will address as many as possible following the presentation. You can also submit any technical questions related to the webinar platform here. Please close down other browser windows or applications that might be splitting your bandwidth, including VPNs, as they might interfere with the audio or video stream. If you do experience any connectivity issues, please simply refresh your browser. Today's session is being recorded, and all registrants will receive an email within 1 to 2 days of the event with a link to view the presentation on demand. So now, I will hand it over to today's first speaker so we can get started with the presentation.
Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar, MAD for Mobile, Microservices, Agile and DevOps, and their meaning for enterprise mobile app development. We welcome Current Analysis to the table with Red Hat Mobile today. But before we begin, I'd like to introduce our two presenters who will spend the next 40 minutes covering the current state of enterprise mobile app development and where it is heading in the context of this webinar topic. Charlotte Dunlop, Senior Analyst from Current Analysis, joins us at Red Hat today to give her insights from her rich industry experience in enterprise applications and services technologies. And she is joined by Conor O'Neill, our product and technology expert, who is responsible for much of the future direction and thought leadership of the Red Hat mobile application platform. And with that, I'll hand you over to Charlotte.
All right, thanks, Leonie. I follow the application platform space here at Current Analysis, which is on-premises middleware that has evolved during the cloud era to also include platform as a service, or PaaS, as well as, in some cases, mobile middleware or mobile app platforms and other mobile services such as MBaaS. And the reason I say it's a great time to be a developer is, after years of data center consolidation projects that are leveraging infrastructure as a service cloud offerings, enterprises are now recognizing that it's all about PaaS. It's all about the platform for making sure next-gen apps are created and supported through the most efficient methods. So as a result, we're going to be seeing a convergence over the next 12 months between developer and DevOps-related technology, including MBaaS, API management, and PaaS, as enterprises, kind of go down that path of digital transformation. So the vendor landscape is evolving, and vendors are mapping out their strategies around mobile app development, Internet of Things, and even microservices to some degree. At the same time, enterprises are responding by laying down these imperatives that application infrastructure must be supported through as a service and agile development and open systems. And, I always like to use the example of Netflix. And I think companies are understanding that we live in this Netflix world where movies aren't delivered through the mail anymore, but continuously through our smart TVs and screens and devices. So these mandates are really driven primarily by developers' need to ease back-end integration between the applications they're creating and traditional systems so they can get to the data they need. A couple years ago, companies like Feedhenry and other MBaaS leaders brought to light how important new technology such as Node.js is for addressing this type of complex integration. And last year, when I attended a lot of the vendor conferences, I noticed all the headline announcements around mobility were focused on new UI frameworks and tools supporting rapid app development that democratized app development. And that was accomplished through more of an agile drag and drop functionality in the app creation process. So now this year, I see that we're back to focusing on the back-end integration of applications along with a revamping of the architectural process altogether. So we're moving from creating monolithic apps to a new microservice architecture that supports rapid app creation and management of those apps. So when I'm done speaking in a bit, Connor is going to take over, and he'll be discussing some of the challenges enterprises face in mobile app development and how the infrastructure is evolving and how developers and operations are getting in sync to become more efficient. So that's our agenda today, and with that, we'll jump right in. Enterprises, they're learning that they've got to be mobile first in order to stay competitive and drive business revenues. They're looking to leverage solutions that fulfill a complete app development lifecycle. So the cultural shift that we've seen in recent years has gone from traditional enterprise app development to mobile app development services, and it's been primarily based on these four aspects. One is the need to simplify mobile app development. Like I said, this can be done through more advanced front-end tools, and it's really driven by a sensitivity towards the extremely short timelines of the mobile app lifecycle from inception to development. Second, the need to expedite deployment through platform services, which include automated scalability and elasticity. And third, the need to facilitate management so that DevOps feels comfortable and has the authentication and security they need. And then lastly, the need for integration through back-end services, which encompass various technologies such as MBaaS, API services, and microservices. So a survey conducted this year by current analysis sister company research firm Cable, with a K, polled 2,600 participants, and it helps illustrate that while the data center transformation provided IaaS, or infrastructure as a service, with a head start in enterprise investment in past years, the shift in attention is now on PaaS, platform as a service. And these figures confirm that we're seeing similarly significant growth in PaaS as part of the comprehensive cloud offering, reflecting about the same compound annual growth rates at close to 50%. And it's worth mentioning that cloud growth is driving these DevOps cloud services that offer the middleware stack along with automated provisioning and, as I said, elasticity. And this is what supports the infrastructure that's really necessary to develop and deploy next-gen enterprise apps. From an operational perspective, PaaS eases the burden of managing the underlying infrastructure that's necessary to support these apps by speeding and simplifying the deployment of the systems. And those include servers, database, network, operating system, and storage. And we'll get to, in a little while, some of the new development architectures around PaaS. So API services have become a key enabler in the whole mobile app development process. I mean, really, well, anyway, as the location of data sources becomes highly variable, they become very important. Enterprises need to be able to open up data sources so their mobile workers can access the services that they want to consume. And developers want to be able to unlock the legacy systems that hold the data they're looking to access, including the broader set of developer teams that are focused on SaaS who want to also leverage those Meet platforms. So the whole idea is that you're bringing together different services and they're driven by API access. API services provide DevOps with better management of their mobile app development and back-end integration through libraries and SDKs. And mobile and cloud offerings are exposing as a set of services these libraries and connectors. The services centralize and normalize APIs to facilitate the movement of authenticated data throughout the mobile app ecosystem. And again, that helps ensure DevOps management requirements are met, things like security. So based on these drivers, we're seeing vendors evolving their platforms in order to unlock public and enterprise data sources in order to bring more value to those sophisticated mobile apps. And technology has really advanced beyond consumer-grade MBAS in recent times. And the original, consumer-grade MBAS, which was primarily driven by marketing campaigns. So more recently, for example, we're seeing more advanced SDKs becoming available for native OSs and push technology with more context-aware capabilities as part of geolocation features. So MBAS and PaaS markets have taken a few years to really evolve to where they're finally now seeing projects underway that are leveraging these services. So initially, MEEP or MADP players offered proprietary back-end integration capabilities, and the broader PaaS market led by large app platform providers had been lacking in mobile services as part of their cloud offerings. MBAS, which is based on API services, helps highlight the importance of back-end integration, and these services are proving to be an important asset for the larger solution set that includes integration, event processing, and business analytics portfolios. All right. So mobile technology advances have really spawned a number of new tools in the form of UI frameworks and libraries with open source support, as I mentioned in the intro. Enterprises have seen a shift in the way people think about front-end development tools. And this has been driven by IT's need to centralize mobile app development, kind of get their arms around it instead of outsourcing it to savvy mobile consultants, and therefore ensure they've got security around the data that's being accessed by the mobile users. The problem is, because in-house mobile projects are mounting, enterprises are facing bottlenecks in defining and designing and developing mobile apps. And this adds pressure to enterprises' need to quicken the life cycle of mobile app development and management. So the industry is realizing an apparent shortage of mobile and cloud-savvy developers. As a result, we can expect to see a number of initiatives and solutions rolling out over the next 12 months based around mobile services, low-code, rapid app development tools, and open source code and tool sets. And of course, we're already starting to see a lot of that. We've seen a trend over the past year where the initial stages of client-side app development are being introduced to a broader audience of non-coders, and these folks are able to take on the jobs by having access to pre-built and reusable components through developer tools that help them to streamline the development production cycles. So some of those tools take a collaborative approach where business users may start the app development process, and then oftentimes they'll hand a project back over to designers and developers who can add more complex customization and, of course, back-end integration. And at the same time, these new tools help business analysts avoid paying the high cost of professional services, so they're able to do more with less cost. Okay. So these new front-end tools are leading to the democratization of app development made possible through visual IDEs, libraries, multi-language support, et cetera, all part of this new app development framework. The ability to let non-coders begin the mobile app development process who are typically building B2E applications frees up more advanced enterprise developer to create sophisticated B2C mobile applications. And these new tools are typically part of a larger offering that spans visual methods to the data model at the back end, with those back-end adapters being key in speeding integration. So comprehensive offerings include support for native app development through drop-in SDKs, so developers can use the preferred mobile OS vendor environment, and then they can leverage an automated back-end integration infrastructure. And developers employing such component frameworks should be able to build out a multi-platform mobile client app more effectively and quickly. And more advanced developers will be able to further customize that client to add functionality. And there are two events in particular I've noticed that have triggered this trend. The shift from proprietary client-side IDE tools that offer developers a choice in the tools they use, which we all refer to as bring your own tools phenomenon. And the second is the growing use of open source software, technologies such as OData support, which let developers leverage BI and analytics tools as part of their mobile apps. So here's another slide that that came from our sister company, Cable, that I thought was interesting. And basically for many of these reasons I just talked about, this research indicates growth in enterprise app development, particularly in the area of B2C apps. So I fully expect growth in technology supporting B2E apps will continue, especially as those apps are being handled among a broader pool of developers and non-developers, including line of business folks. This trend just ensures that more attention will be able to be paid to those advanced development projects, which will involve transformative applications that enterprises are really striving for to help grow new business opportunities aimed at consumers. So my working definition of microservices is that microservices represent a new cloud architecture for distributed applications composed of smaller individual processes or code bases within an application. And they can be delivered through containers and connected through common APIs. This whole approach is in contrast with traditional monolithic applications that are made up of a single, sometimes very large code base, which can become impossible to continually update in a timely manner. And the software design pattern approach of microservices plays nicely into the plans of those enterprises which have transformed their data centers and maybe choosing open source technologies and cloud services to reduce costs and simplify application development and deployment through more of a lightweight approach. And this doesn't preclude enterprises from using lightweight apps without OSS or the cloud, however. The microservice architecture delivers faster time to market, simplified app development, and automated management of the service. And that addresses really important issues like continuous delivery. So enterprises can expect cloud efficiencies around advanced app development and deployment and management lifecycle, which supports continuous delivery through agility. Again, think of the multiple releases per day which may be required as part of an advanced app. Microservice architecture is based on API-driven self-service platforms. And the beauty of it is that the development team is releasing small pieces of the app product versus the entire app for every single new release. Most consider microservices a newer and shinier version of SOA, but one which embraces open source technology and it's part of a REST-based API architectural style. And really, again, the most obvious benefit is its lightweight nature and ability to support app development through an API layer which communicates with common services. And two events in particular have given this new methodology a huge boost recently. The scaling demands required of big data and the need to leverage massive streams of information, as is the case with Internet of Things, which has been a major feeder to big data projects. And each of these events have their own services which can be leveraged and orchestrated between application components. So most consider microservices are best served when they're based on open source software for their need to communicate with multiple disparate services. So it makes sense that middleware providers and enterprises are looking at some of the, the open source platform service leaders. So my last slide here before I hand things over is just I'm going to touch on some near-term drivers for those enterprises going mobile first. Cloud is the most important component of mobile app development delivery. A survey of 650 enterprises by Current Analysis late last year indicated that cloud and network security services had the highest budget priority by far, followed by networking, mobility, data center, big data analytics, and collaborative services. So most organizations will make smaller increases in network services investments and increased investment in cloud and mobility as they look to become more agile. Microservices I see as the biggest trend to hit the application platforms market sector since SOA and MEP, or MADP. And it's largely viewed as the answer to DevOps demands for a more agile and efficient way to build and deploy and manage applications. And while most application platform providers are grappling with how microservices fit into their current middleware portfolios, and some enterprises are already using concepts of this new architecture through their own internal or homegrown expertise, I have seen some open source leaders, including Red Hat and Cloud Foundry, that have taken the lead on launching their own distinctive initiatives. And these two vendors in particular, I think, are causing disruption to the application platforms industry through thought leadership and purposeful outlines of microservices, and through varying technology support of containerization, build packs, and orchestration. Another driver is MEP offerings are giving way to mobile backend as a service and other platforms that provide connectors to backend databases, CRM, and ERP systems from mobile devices. Next generation applications, including mobile and Internet of Things, will continue to leverage emerging technologies that are available through various PaaS offerings. So, things like runtime environment, Node.js, which runs apps written in JavaScript. And similarly, API is becoming the currency of the app platform realm, as I like to say, and important standards such as OData are helping in the success of this technology. And it supports access between applications and different types of data and services. APIs will continue to be deployed in conjunction with analytics technologies, and that's in order to provide insights about API data. And then I thought it was worth noting that interesting new partnerships are going to keep springing up, such as those between app platform and device makers. So a year ago, Apple and IBM made a partnership, and more recently, Red Hat and Samsung. And these kinds of things are going to help spur adoption driven by professional services groups, which are going to be doing, a fair amount of hand-holding and creating advanced custom apps and providing integration support. Really, enterprises are often ill-equipped to take on the role of mobile app development internally, and so many IT departments have opted to develop new mobile apps in-house versus outsourcing, only to find that their Java and .NET developers haven't really grasped all the nuances of modern mobile and cloud development technologies. So these partnerships are going to play a really important role in the application lifecycle by consulting and app creation and back-end integration and provisioning so that they can ensure modern apps are supported. So with that, I'm going to move the slide and Connor, bring you into the presentation.
Thanks, Charlotte. Just to go back on your near-term drivers there, they really do fit very well into our worldview here in Red Hat Mobile. We've long believed that this componentized, API-driven development with a very flexible deployment architecture is really how you meet the needs of our customers and our partners in enterprise mobility. But before I dive into the nitty-gritty of the challenges of mobile and what do enterprises face, we thought we'd do a quick poll. So hopefully you'll be able to vote with what you can see there on the screen. So I'll just read them out as you're there. So one of the following challenges which one would you rate as most critical to your mobility initiatives? Now, there's no right answer for this, so it's really a case of, click the one you like there, and we'll give you a minute or two to vote there. But basically, speed of development and delivery, secure integration with backends, managing new technologies and stacks, shifting roles and changing culture, or is it a fragmented vendor landscape? And we'll hang on there for another minute as we watch the votes come in. And don't be shy, as we often say, vote once, vote often. I'll just give you another moment or two there until we have a decent set. Interesting, just watching the numbers come in here. Speed of development and delivery very, very high, and secure integration with backends very, very high as well. Which segues nicely into the rest of my presentation here. Okay, I think we'll move on from there. The data we saw there was exactly what I said, moving all the way down. So fragmented vendor landscape proving to be, I suppose, the one of least importance to you all. So let's move on to the actual the meat of the presentation itself. So of the changing IT landscape, I mean, the sort of things people need to consider: new technologies and new stacks. Node.js obviously being the prime one, not just in mobile, but kind of across the board. But also, heterogeneous apps and a heterogeneous technology landscape, which means it's not all just Node. Node has to work in an environment which can be very heavily Java-based, very heavily .NET-based, and so on, and is very used to doing so. So how do you, using things like Node and not just Node, how do you deal with this constant change, this constant churn? But what we're also seeing is roles are shifting, and the lines are shifting. We say kind of death to silos. You've got business units, you've got lines of business, you have the various groups like business, IT, and developers, and how do you change the culture so that they're working together in groups rather than, as I said, in a sort of a siloed view. There is that chaotic vendor market landscape, but also just with technology itself, it's, as anybody working in front-end JavaScript will tell you, it's what's hot this week. It can be very, very difficult to keep up. And there is that expectation now of very fast development and very fast delivery, but you still have to remember the old adage of you can have it fast, good, or cheap, and you need to pick two, because that's the only way you can get that. And you have to balance that sort of speed of delivery as you go towards that sort of high velocity approach with quality, security, and stability. So the idea that we need APIs and that's the mission statement, it really should be, we need secure access to our data. So in the next kind of bunch of slides, I'll be zooming in on the, as we said in the title, microservices, agile, DevOps, and PaaS. And this really won't be a case of, drop everything and go MAD. It's really all about iterating towards a target, towards improvement. So if we talk about going from monolithic to microservices, Charlotte mentioned there microservices architecture. It is this idea of very highly modularized services, each one doing one thing very, very well. And the focus of those really, is and should be around RESTful APIs and lightweight messaging. And I would bring in lightweight messaging there. It's not just pure REST. Messaging can still play a very important part between these various microservices, with an eye always kept to the ideas around latency and so on. You can't be inserting latency into your system over what you previously had. And it's also taking that idea of pets versus cattle that we use when we're talking about infrastructure. And you'll actually see that works very well for microservices too. So lots and lots of microservices rather than, I've got 5 services and I can give each of them a name. Very much getting towards automation, composition, and orchestration of lots and lots of microservices. And the other thing about microservices is it is very much about talking about getting from monolithic to microservices, so taking a monolith and replacing bits of it over time with microservices until basically none of your monolith is left. So this avoids those classic, boil the ocean projects where the, success is absolutely not guaranteed at all. It also gets your results faster. You can improve one piece of your existing system. You get that result, you move on, and you keep iterating. And a phrase we've started using recently is that if mobile is the catalyst for this, for moving towards a microservices architecture, then we very much believe Node.js is the tool to actually implement that, and we've seen that. And I'm sure many of you have read the stories about the huge successes in PayPal and Walmart with using Node. But it's very important to note that they didn't rebuild everything in one go. They did it in an iterative fashion. And also, Walmart did mobile first. It wasn't the entire platform that they were doing. There can be lots of churn on these microservices, so that idea of solving a specific problem, it may also be solving a specific problem for a specific amount of time, retiring it, and you have to think about how you manage that. We're very big on reusability, so the idea of, yes, absolutely, you're creating microservices, they may be very lightweight, they may be short-lived, but you have to avoid reinventing the wheel every time you go to implement a particular set of functionality within a particular product or a particular app that you're building. So we're very, very, we push the idea very hard of trying to get that sort of reusability. And a good example would be our own consulting team here. I mean, these guys are experts in creating both mobile apps and reusable microservices. So what they see is they get very common requirements when building apps. But these are common requirements that don't necessarily belong in a platform because they are specific to the particular customer set that they might have. And they also tend to have lots and lots of simultaneous projects going on. So they take a kind of a toolkit of common components approach, which is then composed together into larger solutions. And that deals with a lot of that boilerplate. So then they can focus their time and effort on the really difficult customer-specific challenges for delivering a solution. And the other advantage of this, of course, is that as requirements change, which in the modern world they do, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, churn is the real nature of how businesses are run now, so requirements will change. It's very easy for you then to drop in or out microservices without completely re-architecting your entire systems. In fact, one of the most common requirements that we see is just that idea of having lots and lots of disparate internal APIs in an enterprise and taking those and pulling them together into a single RESTful JSON-based API that can then be exposed to mobile devices while citing all the complexity behind it. And it's very easy then to add and remove on that basis in the background by taking this sort of microservices approach. And also that idea of ephemeral apps, apps that really only last for a couple of weeks because they're dedicated to a specific project. That's facilitated by this approach, reusability, lightweight services, and composing things together. So talking about agility and two-track IT organizations, when we heard the word agile, a lot of people think sprints, they think Scrum, but really it's about getting out of that waterfall mindset and figuring out ways to deliver something more quickly. And it's not just about software development, and that's really, really key. It touches on every aspect of an organization. There's no point in having agile engineering if deploying the actual release takes months. Two-track IT also addresses two-track IT obviously addresses this agile challenge from an IT perspective. And there we get to this idea of fast IT in parallel to core IT. And core IT hasn't gone away and is no less, it's no less important than fast IT. It has to be concerned with the traditional concerns of IT, stability, security, consistency. These are things that will never go away. But also in this two-track world, core IT needs to start thinking about making APIs and making data accessible to the fast IT group. And whether that's taking existing legacy APIs, based on web services, based on SOAP, or even older again, or it's actually reasonably modern, RESTful, enterprise service bus based, SOA based, and so on. It's making those accessible. And then fast IT, who may actually belong to the business units, the lines of business. They can consume these internal APIs and build the agile solutions that the businesses are demanding. And agile solutions such as mobile apps, they can do that quickly, and then they can respond quickly, obviously, to internal demands. I'll quickly mention semi-custom as well, just taking a concept from the integrated circuit industry, because we've heard many times about these magical 90-10 apps that you take an off-the-shelf template, make a few tweaks, and abracadabra, you have an app perfectly tuned for your business in no time at all. And we all know that's hooey. But what we are seeing is that with semi-custom apps, you can get a lot more success in the mobile and Node.js world. It's not 90-10, but it does save an enormous amount of development time. So, apps based around forms and workflows in particular, these can be generated very, very easily. Now, if you have forms app generators plus customizability and reusable microservices, what you have are competent developers finding that they don't need to build apps from scratch. And if they have pre-built, pre-baked back-end systems wired up for them with reusable connectors, that can actually deliver shocking value for a business from what on the surface appears to be a very simple application to the end users. You may also have heard about, Charlotte mentioned it earlier on, our Samsung partnership, and there it's looking at taking vertical specific apps, solving a specific problem for a specific group of people, taking that componentized approach and doing it both for front-end and back-end development. And then why DevOps? Having a SaaS offering here in Red Hat Mobile means that we've had to dive headlong into DevOps, before the term was even coined. It really means product, eng, QA, and ops, all working as a team, not working in silos. When you're releasing code every 2 weeks, you absolutely have the classic joined up thinking, but it really is fundamental to success. And Agile and DevOps, it doesn't mean there's no process. It means the process is streamlined. It means communications are absolutely central, and you have automation tools at every step to make this actually work. But having said that, I talked about automation tools. There can be an over-focus on tools. If only we had Jira instead of Assembler, all our problems would go away. And that's not the case at all. The trick is using automation, using scripting to bend these tools to your will and make them fit the process you're trying to do, not the other way around. So in our case, we have automated flows from GitHub to Jira to Jenkins and beyond, and they work very, very well. But having said that, continuous integration and continuous deployment, that can be an ambition. You don't have to have those in order to be agile. They're just, they're aspects of how you can have an agile organization. And there also isn't a problem with agile and application lifecycle management coexisting. Control is always necessary. You must know what you have deployed, for whom, and where in a wider sense. And I suppose the other important point to make is that DevOps can't be just renaming the operations department and thinking, job done, now what's next? It's about a lot more than just tooling and automation. And I would bring up the most critical point of all, the human aspect. How do you get siloed teams working together and communicate? How do you crack that? How do you get success by bringing these people together and not physically bringing them together? And remote and distributed teams really add a lot of complexity there. But what we see is when staffers work on a mix of these sort of operational and innovation tasks, that projects tend to be more successful. So for example, in our own organization here, not just in Red Hat Mobile, but in the wider Red Hat, the excitement around containers and OpenShift really is everywhere. It really has everybody buzzing across all types of groups. And DevOps, it's an ongoing, it's a continuous thing. You don't just throw stuff over the wall, drop the microphone and walk off stage. This is something that you will be doing effectively forever. So why PaaS and mobile? So Agile and DevOps locked together, they lead naturally to the use of a PaaS. And as we all know, containers and Docker are the future of PaaS. So containers on their own, they do give you, absolute resource efficiency. They're lightweight, they're ultra fast to spin up, and they really allow you to do more with less. But in the context of a PaaS, they give you that development and deployment efficiency too. So you add in scripting, command lines, and Git working together with the PaaS, and what you really get is an incredibly powerful and flexible environment for this development and deployment. And compare that to the sort of rigid batteries included IDEs and old application servers of the past. So it's unsurprising that we in Red Hat Mobile dived headlong into PaaS, as have many others in the mobile world. Enterprises building, lots of apps in lots of business units should not have to worry about what box, what actual piece of metal or what VM their code is running on. As long as they have the security, the access, the performance, the scaling requirements, as long as they can be met, they'll be happy. And again, it's getting away from the idea of pets to cattle again. And a mobile platform powered by Node running on a PaaS to us is the perfect combination. All of your orchestration and composition needs can be met, and they're really pitch perfect for microservices architecture and to have those integrations into existing business back-end systems. And with that, I'll hand you back to Charlotte to talk about some of our interesting conclusions. We lost Charlotte. Are you on mute there, Charlotte, or will I shoot ahead? I think we may have lost Charlotte. Okay, I'll go ahead and shoot.
Can you hear me?
We got you now.
Okay. You can hear me, Connor?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry guys. All right, so yeah, let's go ahead and go through our conclusion slide here, and then we will probably have some time for some questions. So for me, for starters, I think given that traditional technology providers have been or are trying to move into the cloud space, enterprises are now demanding that those cloud providers offer platform services and as well as mobile services. Traditional middleware vendors have a head start on hybrid cloud services, integrating on-premises and cloud mobile app platforms. And then some of the newer entrants into PaaS, cloud providers such as HP and VMware, are indeed being compelled to offer platform services as part of their overarching cloud solutions. So as such, they've been making a number of acquisitions or technology partnerships to help fill those technology gaps. Also, technology is being driven by the need to make mobile app development more agile through lightweight on-ramp service offerings. And so we're going to be seeing, we already are seeing all vendors, look to be offering these sort of on-ramp services through various methods, whether it's free trials or some of that hand-holding I was mentioning. And some of the traditional cloud vendors like Amazon are not ready to give up this fight, and they're demonstrating their own new technology innovations. So, for example, AWS's Lambda platform, which is an Internet of Things, kind of easy to jump onto kind of platform. And then finally, RAD, MBaaS, and API services will be an important part of all comprehensive cloud offerings eventually. So just in the last several weeks alone, I just can't believe how many acquisitions have been made by large PaaS providers as a way of strengthening their middleware and mobile middleware, API, MBaaS, and RAD portfolios. And this is especially important for enterprises to be able to leverage mature middleware, for example, JBoss or WebSphere for advanced enterprise-grade integrations by connecting the enterprise service bus to the mobile services technology. So again, with the whole idea being you've got the mature PaaS with the integration technology underneath it, being linked with these new mobile services. And I'll let you, Connor, finish on the other bullets.
Thanks, Charlotte. Yeah, we talk about the transition to the cloud, and transition is a really, really important word because a lot of what we've talked about today is a journey. It's not, you know, a binary thing where you go immediately from the way you were doing things into this new way of doing things. And the same is true of the cloud. A huge number of businesses are either still entirely, you know, in private data centers on-premise, but the number who are either going, you know, heading towards full cloud or taking that hybrid approach where the best of the cloud mixes with the best of on-prem, you know, you really have to address both. And things like MBAS and PaaS really play very, very strongly into this and allow you to do that. And indeed, with our own mobile platform, that ability that, you know, your core platform and your mobile backend can reside in different places is extremely powerful. We'll also just kind of briefly mention on the Internet of Things, you know, we believe that mobile platform and PaaS provides a very firm foundation for organizations to start looking at Internet of Things. We all know that 99% of Internet of Things still is more talk than action, but the talk has to happen first, and you also need to have some of the tools to at least start making the baby steps into this. But two of the things we would really highlight as being challenges here that need to be addressed by anybody looking at this is, one is device management. You know, take what you're doing in terms of mobility and, you know, multiply that by 1,000 in an IoT world, but also security. And you know, we absolutely believe that security requirements will really trump everything else before IoT, because, you know, Internet of Things becomes a thing. And we'd finally mention trimodal IT. Now, this is you know, it's a term we're coining, but it's really to get the idea out there that, you know, we have what we call our core IT and our fast IT, but you also have operational IT, particularly in an Internet of Things context, and the types of people dealing with that type of infrastructure and those types of devices and data flows and data pipes. It is a different skill set, it's a different set of requirements, and really needs to be addressed when people are thinking about these types of architectures. We'll move on to the Q&A section. I just leave that sort of last slide up there, has some contact details for us, you know, following us on Twitter and so on. There's a link there to an ebook around the whole business case for a mobile application platform. But now, if you do have any questions, just pop them there into the I would say the box on the right, but I have absolutely no idea where it is on your screen. And maybe, Charlotte, do you want to grab one of those and kick it off?
Sure. Yeah, I've been looking at them. And by the way, just one comment. I thought, Connor, that was a very practical view that you had about, you know, just replacing your development methodology over time to microservices. It's true. We talk this stuff up, and Internet of Things, you know, we're in the early days, so doing it in an iterative fashion and not boiling the entire ocean. So that was a good practical advice there. So let's see. I see a first question here, and maybe I'll take this one, Connor. The PaaS market today is quite small. What makes you think that it will grow according to what the survey said, and what will be the main driver of this growth? You know, I follow the PaaS market closely, and it just feels like every cloud player now is getting into PaaS. I was at VMworld a few weeks ago. I sat down with CenturyLink, you know, so companies that I've never talked to before are looking to get into the space. So CenturyLink with its AppFog acquisition. And then you've got VMware leveraging Cloud Foundry, so it can add platform services to its vCloud Air. And HP Helion development platform is another example. They've just added middleware through their Staccato acquisition. So you've got, you know, a lot of these new incumbents coming into the space, which are already dominated by not only Amazon and Google, but at an enterprise level for those developers, you know, Red Hat OpenShift and IBM Bluemix and Microsoft Azure, to name a few. I would just say, though, to, you know, enterprises that are considering these services, that, you know, keep a few things in mind as they make decisions around PaaS. Obviously, each of these vendors are going to lead with their own differentiators. You know, VMware with its virtualization and infrastructure, of course, et cetera. But you really want to consider those vendors that have mature and comprehensive middleware on which they use to build their platform services. These vendors also tend to have a really large, loyal developer following and ecosystem. So, they know how to serve them, and they've got that head start in addressing emerging technologies such as mobile services and microservices. So I don't know if you see another question there, Connor. Maybe I'll give you a chance to answer one.
Sure, there's a couple of related ones which I'll address. One of them is just around the use of open source in the type of environment we're talking here, whether it's PaaS, microservices approach, mobile in general. And also there's a sort of a follow-up from somebody there talking about the complexity around open source licensing and so on. I think that's been a great learning experience for us in Red Hat Mobile. We came in as Feet Henry. We were very, very strong users of open source, but we weren't, we had very little that we'd done ourselves in terms of open sourcing. So we've been on a really interesting learning curve on that. And to us, it just makes absolute sense that everything around what we're doing should be open sourced because it just gives you visibility. The old, concept around security by obscurity and all of that sort of stuff has to go away. The more eyeballs you get on something, the more robust it's going to be, the better it's going to be, having community input, improving and widening a platform like that, but not just a platform. To answer the specific question that one of the people had here, the licenses themselves are very important. So you can't, if you are looking to build redistributable products based on this type of architecture, you have to be very, very clear that the licenses on the code you're using supports that. And obviously the two main ones there would be MIT and the Apache license, but some of the others may not be appropriate at all. That is unfortunately, that's one of the things you have to do. That's one of the jobs when it comes to making use of open source, but the benefits far outweigh that, particularly when you get into the whole area of good use of dependency management tools and good use of how you compose these things. You get your set of tools, modules, libraries, and so on that work for you, get that reusability, make that your toolkit. And I'll quickly segue into another question that was asked because it's a good one in the context of kind of microservices development. They were asking about tooling, and we always say that the BYOT, we use the phrase BYOT all the time and unapologetically, despite the fact that sometimes the pushback is, I know, but tell me what tools to use. But it really does depend on the team and what their own experiences are and what their own preferences are. But by taking a very open technology stack approach, using platforms like Node.js, using PaaS, it just becomes very, very easy for you then, because you get the composability of command line tools, of Git, of APIs that, we talked about development and the power of APIs for developers, but it's the incredible power of APIs and CLIs for the operational and deployment and aspect of all of this as well. So we don't say there's some DevOps tools or there's some agile tools or there's some microservices tools. It really is a mindset and an approach, and then you pull in the tools that work best for you as an organization. And that can be very heterogeneous. If I look at our developers inside there, I see everything from Emacs, Emacs Vim for the old school guys, WebStorm, Eclipse, JBoss Developer Studio, obviously the Android tools, Xcode tools, and so on. And they all work seamlessly together as teams. Because the underlying tools that they're using to connect to the platform enable that sort of heterogeneity. Do you have another one there, Charlotte?
Yeah, sure. It had to do with OSS, which you were just talking about, so I think I'll include my thoughts on it too. Are we seeing a big shift towards OSS? And I think with the shift to the cloud, I'm seeing more enterprises laying down these mandates around OSS, like I kind of alluded to in my presentation. Open source software is an issue that, maybe it wasn't necessarily top of mind in past years among all enterprises on-premise integration solutions. But when you think about what developers are now faced with, as they have to deal with more back-end integration and the location of data sources, which is now really highly variable. And really, when we say hybrid cloud, that should really mean being able to leverage the most attractive cloud options for particular projects. So when you think of all these things, OSS is becoming much more important. So I am seeing a number of questions. Yeah, okay, go for it, Connor.
Yeah, I'll just grab there's one at the top there, which is interesting. Someone asked, do you see the future where IaaS, PaaS, and MBaaS merge into a single offering? Our view really there is very much a layered one, that we don't see PaaS competing with IaaS, we don't see MBaaS competing with PaaS. What we actually see from a Red Hat Mobile perspective is that MBaaS is an absolutely brilliant use case for PaaS. It really, really highlights the power of what a PaaS can deliver for you in an organization. I mean, if any org wants to know, well, what should I use a PaaS for? Look at how you might use an MBaaS with a PaaS. And the fact is, PaaS sits on top of IaaS. That's the reality. Whether that's public cloud on AWS, whether that's OpenStack or pure RHEL, it really has that portability, and we see it layered like that. But equally importantly, and it's something we've been talking about a lot internally, is taking that view of the horizontal and the vertical of security. So the horizontal from device through the kind of API front end and proxying layer of an MBaaS, the handling of all the security in there, passing potentially through VPNs into a customer's back-end system, if you view that as the sort of the horizontal security, but also the vertical security, knowing that you have an ultra-secure OS right down through VMs onto bare metal, working up through very, very secure PaaS, and then the secure MBaaS sitting on top of it. There's a huge amount of value to an organization knowing that when they are looking to unleash internal data, internal APIs, and internal systems to mobile devices, that they can be sure they're doing it in a very, very secure way.
Yeah, I would just like to add to that, if that's okay, Connor, which is I think the biggest issue behind that question, merging of IaaS, PaaS, and MBaaS, the biggest issue to me is, between mobile services like MBaaS and PaaS, so that what you're really getting when you look at the PaaS and mobile services solution is, sure, you've got the mobile developers that can create these great mobile applications, but when you're able to leverage the underlying middleware technology that's part of a mature PaaS offering, that's where a lot of the value happens as applications grow, as things grow, because you're really leveraging this strong integration, API, messaging, data grid, in-memory technology, all those types of things, and that's what's really, the under the covers parts of mobile app development through the PaaS. So, I can tell you stats that we've seen. Yeah, people like single vendor sources. So, it's nice to have IaaS and PaaS from a single vendor. But really, to me, the heart of that answer is about, PaaS with the mobile services for the reasons I just said. So I get a little bit concerned, when I see some of these larger cloud entrants coming in and kind of tacking on, middleware, which is fine. It's great they're getting into it. But, it's the maturity of the middleware that's really key.
Yeah, I'd add just one final note there, which is the other piece that the PaaS gives our customers and us kind of equivalently is I don't even know if it's a word, polyglotism, but it basically means, our MBaaS is very much focused, the MBaaS part of our platform is very much focused on Node.js, But for example, the XPAS initiative within Red Hat, where you can have JBoss Fuse or ActiveMQ or any of these other products also running on the PAS, and it's really easy for us to connect those together. We just see that delivers a lot of value. It delivers a lot of value across the board. So we're getting the flag here that we should be wrapping up. So I just wanted to kind of remind people there, if you can still see that screen, about downloading the ebook and following us wherever you would like to follow us. And thanks a million, Charlotte, for everything. Was there any last words you had there?
Yeah, no, thank you. Enjoyed this. Appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you all soon.
Bye.